introduction. I'm not actually singing any Australian folk songs today.
Whatever makes you happy. Thank you for coming.
What I'd like to do, I'm going to give a talk today about an area of folk music that I'm particularly interested in. Probably the most important collection of traditional songs ever published is what is known as the child ballads. They're not children's songs. A lot of them are very definitely for adults only. They refer to the songs collected by Francis James Child, an American folklorist and Harvard professor who published the English and Scottish Popular Ballads in 5 large volumes between 1882 and 1898. Most of them date from the 17th and 18th centuries, but several go back to a much earlier time in history. Since the folk revival of the 1950s and 60s, many of these songs have been recorded hundreds of times and had a great influence on songwriters like Bob Dylan, who used them as models for a lot of his own songs. The ballads deal with many aspects of life, including love, war, murder, and the supernatural. Although they were made up by common people, they usually told tales of the rich and famous, whether real or fictional, a bit like the magazines today that thrive on stories about the royal family and other celebrities. Many of these ballads turned up in America, often in a purer form than the versions that survived in England and Scotland. And because they were passed on orally, these ballads have been found in many different versions. So Child gave a number to each group of songs that seem to be telling the same story. There are 305 child ballads, some of them short, some of them taking as long as half an hour to sing. In fact, there's one, a jest of Robin Hood, that takes an hour to sing. I won't be doing that one. I can only present a small selection of these today to scratch the surface. But what I'd like to do is focus on the question of how these ballads should be performed. And I'd like to start by singing the very first ballad I ever learned as a child, listening to my father's collection of Burl Ives records. It's Barbary Allan, Child number 84. It's one of the best known of the ballads. And there are hundreds of versions of this song, but I'll do the one that I first learned from Burl Ives. In Scarlet Town, where I was born, there was a fair maid dwelling, made every youth cry, well a day, and her name was Barbary Allan. 'Twas in the merry, merry month of May, when green buds they were swelling, sweet William on his deathbed lay, for the love of Barbary Allan. He sent his servant to the town, to the place where she was dwelling, said, Master, bid you come to him, if your name be Barbary Allan. Then slowly, slowly she got up, and slowly went she nigh him, and when she pulled the curtains back, said, young man, I think you're dying. Oh yes, I'm sick, I'm very, very sick, and I never will be better until I have the love of one, the love of Barbary Allan. Oh, can ye not in yonder town, in the place where we were dwelling, you gave a toast to the ladies all, but you slighted Barbary Allan. Oh yes, I can it well, in the place where we were dwelling, I gave a toast to the ladies all, that my love to Barbary Allan. Then lightly tripped she down the stairs. He trembled like an aspen. 'Tis vain, my dear young man, to hope for Barbary Allan. She walked out in the green fields. She heard his death bells knelling, and every stroke they seemed to say, hard-hearted Barbary Allan. Her eyes looked east, her eyes looked west. She saw his pale corpse a-comin'. She cried, bearers, bearers, put him down, that I may look upon him. The more she looked, the more she grieved, until she burst out crying. She cried, bearers, bearers, take him off, for I am now dying. Oh Father, go dig my grave, go dig it deep and narrow. Sweet William died for me today, I'll die for him tomorrow. They buried her in the old churchyard. Sweet William's grave was nigh her, and from his heart grew a red, red rose, and from her heart a briar. They grew and they grew o'er the old church wall, till they could grow no higher, and then they tied a true lover's